Welcome to our YouTube channel, The Alien Tales, and please ensure that you have subscribed.
My alien wife burns every meal but perfects the art of forgiveness. Her species doesn't cook. Mine doesn't naturally emit pheromones of comfort. We're learning love through domestic disasters and gentle patience. The piercing shriek of our smoke alarm had become as familiar as morning birdsong. I bolted upright in bed, my human instincts screaming fire, while my married to Zalara instincts calmly whispered, "Tuesday, darling." Zalara's melodious voice called from the kitchen, her natural Vorthakian accent making even disaster sound elegant. I believe I've achieved combustion again. I stumbled down the hallway, bare feet slapping against cool tiles, following the acrid smell of what used to be breakfast. The kitchen looked like a war zone, if wars were fought with pancake batter and good intentions. Zalara stood amid the chaos, her iridescent blue skin shimmering with embarrassment, her large violet eyes wide with that particular mixture of confusion and determination that made my chest tight with affection. "The recipe said medium heat," she explained, gesturing helplessly at the charcoal disc smoking in our supposedly non-stick pan. "But your human measurements are so imprecise. What constitutes medium? Medium compared to what? The surface temperature of your sun? The core of your planet?" I reached past her to turn off the burner, my arm brushing against hers. Where our skin touched, tiny sparks of static electricity danced, a quirk of our biological incompatibility that we'd learned to find endearing rather than alarming. Medium heat means, I started, then stopped. We'd had this conversation 17 times in the past month. Instead, I pulled her into my arms, inhaling the sweet ozone scent that surrounded her when she was flustered. "Perhaps," she murmured against my shoulder, "we should consider that breakfast is overrated." Outside, our neighbor's dog began howling in harmony with the smoke alarm. Something was about to change in our little disaster-prone paradise. On Vorthak, we absorbed nutrients through our skin, Zalara explained for the 100th time, scraping the remains of what might have once been eggs into the garbage disposal. Photosynthesis was sufficient, very efficient. No burning required. I nodded, opening windows to clear the smoke while mentally calculating how many more fire alarms we'd need to replace this month. And on Earth, we need actual food, preferably not carbonized. "Your species is remarkably high maintenance," she said, but her tone was fond. She moved to the refrigerator with that peculiar Vorthakian grace, as if gravity was merely a suggestion rather than a law. "Perhaps we could compromise. I could absorb sunlight while you forage." "Forage?" I laughed, dodging a piece of ceiling plaster that chose that moment to fall. "Honey, we live in suburban Phoenix. The only thing to forage is our neighbor's complaints about the smoke." Zalara tilted her head, considering. When she did this, the small scales along her temples shifted color from purple to a thoughtful silver. It was one of the 1,000 little things about her that made my heart skip beats. "I've been researching human courtship rituals," she announced suddenly, producing her tablet. The screen showed a cooking video titled, "10 Easy Meals That Won't Burn Your House Down." "Courtship rituals?" I raised an eyebrow. "We're already married." "Yes, but according to your internet, cooking for one's mate is essential for maintaining romantic bonds. I refuse to be deficient in this area." Her jaw set with that stubborn determination that had made her leave her home planet for a complete stranger she'd met through an interspecies dating app. The determination that was about to lead us into our biggest kitchen disaster yet. 3 hours later, our kitchen looked like a pasta factory had exploded during an earthquake. Zalara stood in the center of the chaos, spaghetti hanging from her hair like festive streamers, sauce splattered across her chest in abstract patterns that would have made Pollock weep. "The instructions were unclear," she declared, holding up a strand of spaghetti that had somehow achieved the consistency of rubber cement. "It said to boil until al dente. But what is this al dente? Is it a person? A place? A unit of measurement?" I bit my lip to keep from laughing. The sauce, which had started as a simple marinara, now covered 3 walls, the ceiling, and what appeared to be our cat, Nebula, who sat in the doorway looking betrayed. "It means to the tooth," I explained gently, taking the rubber noodle from her hands. "Firm but not hard." "Ah, She nodded sagely. Like your human emotional expressions. Difficult to interpret without proper context. That stung a little. Zalara's species communicated primarily through pheromone releases and color changes. Meanwhile, I was stuck with this primitive human face that apparently revealed nothing of my inner emotional landscape. I can read you just fine, I lied, wrapping my arms around her waist. She smelled like oregano and ozone now, an oddly comforting combination. Can you? She turned in my arms, her violet eyes searching mine. Then tell me what I'm feeling right now. Her scales had shifted to a deep burgundy, and there was a subtle change in her scent. Something warmer, more complex. I opened my mouth to guess, but the words died in my throat, because suddenly, I realized I had no idea what my wife was thinking, and apparently she knew it too. This is the problem, Zalara said, her scales cycling through frustrated shades of red and orange. She gestured between us with sauce-covered hands. Your species relies on facial expressions and vocal tones. Mine uses scent and chromatic displays. We're like two radios trying to communicate on different frequencies. I felt something cold settle in my stomach. Are you saying we can't understand each other? I'm saying we're trying very hard, but perhaps not succeeding as well as we hoped. She moved to the sink, running water over her hands. The motion was unnecessarily graceful. Everything Zalara did had an otherworldly elegance that made our small kitchen feel like a stage. I know when you're frustrated, I said defensively. Your left eyebrow does this little twitch. And I know when you're lying, she replied, not looking at me. Your scent changes. It becomes sharper, more metallic. Wait, you can smell my emotions? She finally turned, her scales now a muted gray. Not emotions, exactly. Chemical changes. When you're stressed, you produce different compounds. When you're happy, there's a sweetness. When you're aroused, okay, I get it. My face burned. So you've been reading me this whole time? Attempting to. But human chemical signals are so subtle, like trying to hear a whisper in a thunderstorm. She moved closer, and I caught that ozone scent again, stronger now. Sometimes I think I understand, and then you do something completely unexpected. Like what? She smiled then, the first genuine smile since the spaghetti explosion. Like not getting angry when I destroy our kitchen daily. Your scent becomes protective, amused. It makes no sense. The timer on the oven chose that moment to go off and we both froze. We'd forgotten about the garlic bread. The garlic bread had achieved a state of carbonization that defied several laws of physics. Black smoke poured from the oven like a special effect from a disaster movie, and our poor smoke alarm resumed its daily aria of distress. I'm calling the fire department, I announced, reaching for my phone. No! Zalara's voice cracked with panic. Not again. Mrs. Henderson already threatened to report us to the Homeowners Association. She was right. Our neighbor had been increasingly vocal about our domestic terrorism, as she'd so charmingly put it. 3 fire truck visits in 1 month was pushing the limits of suburban tolerance. Instead, I grabbed the fire extinguisher from under the sink while Zalara opened every window and door in the house. We worked in practice synchronization, a dance we'd perfected through sheer necessity. Why do you stay? She asked suddenly, her voice barely audible over the alarm. Any rational human would have left by now. I paused, extinguisher in hand. The question hit me like a physical blow. What kind of question is that? An honest one. Her scales had shifted to a deep blue. The color I'd learned meant sadness. I destroy everything I touch. I can't perform basic domestic tasks. I don't understand your customs or your emotions. Stop. I set down the extinguisher and crossed to her. The smoke alarm continued its banshee wail, but suddenly all I could hear was the rapid flutter of her dual heartbeats. You're my wife. That's not an answer. It's the only answer that matters. I cupped her face in my hands, feeling the smooth warmth of her scales. Besides, you're forgetting something important. What's that? I grinned. I can't cook either. At least your disasters are spectacular. Something shifted in her expression. Surprise, relief, and something else I couldn't quite identify. Her scales brightened to a soft gold. Perhaps, Solara said the next morning, surveying our blackened kitchen with the expression of a general planning a military campaign. We should approach this scientifically. She'd spent the night researching, her tablet propped against the coffee maker that had somehow survived our culinary wars. The screen displayed what looked like a complex mathematical equation involving heat transfer and molecular gastronomy. Scientifically, I asked, nursing my coffee and trying not to think about the suspicious smell coming from the toaster. Cooking is simply chemistry with delicious results, she announced. I have 3 advanced degrees in biochemistry. Surely I can master the combination of heat, time, and ingredients. She'd arranged ingredients on the counter with surgical precision. Eggs, flour, milk, sugar. The recipe for pancakes, our white whale, the meal that had defeated us every Tuesday for 2 months. Solara, I said gently, maybe we should start with something simpler, like cereal. Nonsense. She tied her hair back with a band, her scales shifting to determined orange. I will not be defeated by breakfast food. She cracked the first egg with the confidence of someone who had never done it before. Shell fragments cascaded into the bowl like confetti. Ah, she said, studying the mess. I see. The outer casing is not meant to be included in the mixture. Generally, no. She tried again, this time holding the egg like a live grenade. More shell, less egg. By the 3rd attempt, she had more calcium carbonate than actual egg in the bowl. This is more challenging than synthesizing complex polymers, she muttered. I was about to offer help when she suddenly froze, her scales shifting to pale yellow, the color of realization. What is it? I asked. I think I understand the problem. I've been approaching this incorrectly, Solara announced, setting down the egg and shell mixture with newfound purpose. I've been trying to follow human cooking methods when I should be adapting them to my physiology. What do you mean? She held up her hands, and I noticed what I'd somehow missed before. Her fingertips were slightly pointed, designed for precision work rather than the crude manipulation required for cracking eggs. My species evolved for delicate chemical processes, she explained. We synthesized nutrients at the molecular level. But human cooking is aggressive, rough. It requires a different approach. She moved to the stove with renewed confidence, adjusting the heat to exactly the right temperature. Not through guesswork this time, but by using the infrared vision I'd forgotten she possessed. You can see heat, I said, feeling stupid for not realizing it sooner. Among other electromagnetic frequencies, yes. She smiled, and her scales shimmered with pride. I've been cooking blind, essentially, using only your visible spectrum. She began to mix the batter with mathematical precision, measuring everything by weight rather than volume. Her movements became fluid, purposeful, less like a human cooking and more like a scientist conducting an elegant experiment. The batter hit the pan with a perfect sizzle. No smoke alarm, no carbonization, just the gentle bubble and pop of pancakes actually cooking. It's working, I whispered, afraid to break the spell. Of course it's working, she said, but her voice was soft with wonder. I was trying to be something I'm not instead of being myself more skillfully. The first pancake emerged golden brown and beautiful. As she flipped it onto a plate, her scales cycled through the entire spectrum. Pure joy made visible. But then she looked at me, and her expression grew serious. There's something else I need to tell you about adapting to be myself. Solara set down the spatula and turned to face me fully, her scales shifting to that deep burgundy I'd seen yesterday, the color I still couldn't interpret. On Vorthak, she began, her voice carefully controlled. We don't just communicate through pheromones and color changes. We share them. When 2 people are bonded, they develop a synchronized chemical language. I felt my heart rate increase. Okay, what does that mean for us? It means I've been trying to read you the way I would read another Vorthakian. But you can't produce the right compounds and I can't properly interpret your human signals. We've been having 2 completely different conversations. She moved closer and I caught that ozone scent again, but stronger now, more complex. For example, right now your scent is telling me you're nervous, but I can't tell if it's good nervous or bad nervous. And my color changes probably mean nothing to you. They mean something, I protested. The burgundy means, you see. She smiled sadly. We've been pantomiming intimacy instead of actually achieving it. The pancakes sat forgotten on the counter, perfect and golden. Our first culinary success, overshadowed by the revelation that we'd been failing at something much more important. So what do we do? I asked. I've been researching that too. She picked up her tablet, showing me a page about interspecies relationship counseling. There are techniques, ways to bridge the gap between our communication styles. But it requires vulnerability from both of us. What kind of vulnerability? Her scales flickered between burgundy and silver. I would need to teach you to understand my chemical language, and you would need to learn to produce clearer emotional signals. This intimate, more intimate than most Vorthakians ever share. The kitchen fell silent except for the soft bubbling of the remaining batter. A choice hung in the air between us, heavy with implications I was only beginning to understand. Show me, I said. Zalara's scales flashed bright silver. Surprise, I realized. Are you certain? Once we begin this process, you'll know everything I'm feeling. Every moment of doubt, every flash of irritation, everything. And you'll know mine if you learn to signal properly, yes. She moved closer, her scent shifting to something warmer, richer. But humans are naturally more guarded. Your emotional privacy is built into your biology. This would be like learning to turn yourself inside out. I thought about our morning routine, the smoke alarm symphony, her patient determination, my growing frustration. How many times had I smiled when I wanted to scream? How many times had she colored herself calm when she was actually terrified? What's the first step? I asked. Her scales brightened to gold. Physical contact. Sustained contact. It's how we map each other's chemical signatures. She took my hands in hers, and immediately I felt that familiar static electricity. But this time, instead of pulling away, she held on. Close your eyes, she whispered, and try to notice everything you can about how I smell. I obeyed, inhaling deeply. The ozone was there, but underneath it was something else. Something that reminded me of rain on summer afternoons, of the moment before lightning strikes. That's contentment, she said softly, mixed with anticipation. Can you feel it? Could not smell exactly, but something deeper, like tasting color or hearing texture. Yes, good. Now concentrate on this. Her scent shifted, became sharper, more electric. This is love. Not the emotion, the chemical signature of it. The feeling hit me like a wave. Warm, overwhelming, certain. I opened my eyes to find her scales cycling through every color in her spectrum. A light show of pure emotion. Now, she said, let me teach you to speak my language. 6 months later, our kitchen still smelled faintly of smoke, but the fire alarm had learned to ignore us. Zalara stood at the stove, her scales a contented green gold, making what she called fusion pancakes. A recipe that combined human cooking techniques with Vorthakian chemical precision. Your anxiety levels are elevated, she observed without looking up. The metallic scent is quite pronounced. I grimaced. Our new communication system had some drawbacks. Work presentation today. My boss hates everything I do. She flipped a pancake with theatrical flair. Perhaps you should emit some confidence pheromones instead. Very funny. You know I can't control it like you can. But the truth was, I had learned to signal more clearly. Not through scent, that was beyond human capability, but through subtler cues. Micro-expressions, vocal tones, even the way I held my shoulders. Zalara had become fluent in reading my biological tells, while I developed an intuitive understanding of her chromatic language. She turned to me now, scales shifting to deep purple. I have something to tell you. My heart skipped. Purple was serious. Good something or bad something? Uncertain something. She moved closer, and I caught her scent. Ozone mixed with that rain smell that meant contentment, but underneath it something new. Something that made my chest tight with unnamed possibility. I spoke with the Vorthakian Cultural Exchange yesterday, she said. They want to study our relationship. How we've adapted to communicate across species barriers. Study us how? They want us to teach other interspecies couples. Share our techniques. Her scales flickered between purple and silver. It would mean travel, meeting others like us, possibly writing a book about kitchen disasters and the chemistry of love. I stared at her, processing. You want to become professional relationship counselors? I want to help others avoid burning down their kitchens while they learn to love each other properly. She smiled, and her scales blazed gold. What do you think? I thought about our smoke alarm symphony, our spaghetti disasters, our perfect pancakes. I thought about learning to read the language of her skin, teaching her to decode the mysteries of human emotion. I thought about other couples, other kitchens, other beautiful disasters waiting to happen. I think, I said, pulling her close and inhaling her contentment and lightning scent, we're going to need a bigger fire extinguisher. Her laughter filled the kitchen, bright and alien and completely mine. Outside, Mrs. Henderson's dog howled in harmony with our smoke alarm, a sound that had become, against all odds, the soundtrack of our perfectly imperfect love.